Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it is your host with the most, Avery LR32 here, bringing you guys a discussion video about erratas. So, I was watching a video from Design Enigma, and he was talking about the new rule change, and as I was watching the video, I got to thinking about erratas, and that's not the only reason, actually. One of the other reasons why I was thinking about erratas is also because Vexy was talking about how Goyo Guardian might get an errata, which is possible. Like, Konami, I mean, they are the maker of the game, so for one thing, they can do whatever the heck they want. And also, with it being out around now the same time as Pendulums and Exceeds, they could say this card has to be faceable on the field to activate to resolve this effect. So, they could do that. We've seen it in the OCG with Dark Strike Fighter. It says that once per turn. Obviously, they don't have it here on Dueling Network because it's still the TCG and we haven't gotten that errata, but that's why Dark Strike Fighter is legal over there because of that errata. If it were not for that errata, it never would have came back. So, I decided to do some digging, actually, through some banned cards that I believe could come back, and it's not only limited to these banned cards. This can go for any banned card in the game, if you think about it. Because when it comes down to it, when I was also doing my research on the term erratas, on the term errata and like what can be changed in the form of an errata, pretty much, shut up, phone. Pretty much anything can be changed when Konami decides to do an errata on a card. They can change the name. We saw this in Harpy's Brother when they changed it from Harpy's Brother to Sky Scout. We saw this in Big Shield Gardna when they just corrected how it was spelled. They even changed Kinetic Soldier. When it came out in the 2004 Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship game, it was an Earth. Then when they reprinted it in the next set it came out in, it was a Light, and then in the Structure Deck Machine of Mayhem, they changed it back to an Earth. So they can change anything about the card. These are just some specific cards that, just off the top of my head looking through here, I believe could come back. And yes, believe it or not, Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy the End is in this list that I have here, and hear me out on this because I know people are going to flip out over this, but with the right errata, Chaos Emperor Dragon could come back. Now, just hear me out because I do have what an errata is right here. So, the actual definition of an errata is a correction to the text on a card or in rare instances, characteristics such as attack or attribute. Now, I know that this says rare instances, and I understand that, but also keep in mind that, CED is a very powerful card. It's arguably one of the most powerful cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And even more powerful when it's combined with, like, Yugioh and all that, but that's neither here nor there. So, Konami, if they wanted to, could change the attack or attribute or anything they wanted to about CED or any other card that's banned. And then continuing on with the quote, cards must always be played using their latest errata, even when using an older copy of a card. And then it just talks about how they're easier to understand, blah, 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 blah. And these are just examples, like I said. They corrected Big Shield Gardna. Instead of Oscular Hero number 2, they changed it to a Watt. So they made it all the way, they completely changed what it was supposed to be. Instead of an Osculo Hero monster, they changed it straight to a Watt monster in the form of Watt Kid, which is what we have today. They even made Summon Skull an Archfiend monster. Back in the day in Starter Deck Yu-Gi, it was not an Archfiend monster at all. Now it's treated as an Archfiend card. So, like I said, and then Harpy's Brother to Sky Scout. Like I said, they can do whatever they want with the card. 2004 World Championship promotional cards. Kinetic Soldier was an Earth. Champion Pack Game 4 was a Light. And then in the Machine of Mayhem, it was an Earth again. They can even change the type of the card. They can make CED... I mean, this is definitely throwing it out there, obviously. But they could make it into a trap card if they really wanted to, in like a reprint or something. Forbidden Memories promos. Metamorph was a regular trap. In its first errata, it was a continuous trap, and then it was a regular trap in Machine of Mayhem. They could even change CED. I'm just giving CED as an example, because that was the first card that popped into my head once I started thinking about erratas. But they completely changed Two Mouth Dark Ruler from a dragon to a dinosaur. So they could even change, if they really wanted to, CED, they could change it from a dragon to a dinosaur, if they really wanted to, or something like that. And then they could errata the effect where, if you control a face-up light dinosaur monster, apply this effect. Destroy all cards on your opponent's side of the field and inflict 300 damage, or destroy all cards on the field and inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each. Or if you control a face-up Dark monster, you can pay 1,000 life points to destroy all cards in both players' hands, and you can't attack for the next 3 turns, or something like that. Like, they could do whatever they wanted to the card so that it wasn't as busted. Because think of it this way. Right now, or even in, like, any format where CED has been banned, could CED ever come back? And even just reading the effect right now, do you think CED could come back? No, absolutely not. Because decks like Chaos Dragons, hell, even decks like Lightsworn Rulers, like the zombie versions and all that, I mean, oh my god, like, they're running BLS. They could easily swap out BLS for CED, and you could even argue it'd be a tier 0 deck because of it. You could pay $1,000, send all cards in your hand on both players' side of the field to grave, your opponent takes 300 for each card destroyed, then you could trigger the Dragon Rulers in your grave, start bringing out stuff, swing with all that, then go to a Dracosac, detach 2 for tokens, and then your opponent is staring down your board of a Dracosac of 2 tokens, and they have no hand or board. And it's like, unless you're going to top deck that Soul Charge, have fun. Which, if it happens, that's Yu-Gi-Oh! But that definitely does not defy CED. Other cards that could come back due to erratas. Yata-Garasu. Yata-Garasu, its original text is, this card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn. This card is normal summon foot face up. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, your opponent skips their next draw phase. They could change this to... you can only use this effect once per duel. I mean, that's simple. And then Yata-Garasu wouldn't be able to ever trigger again for the rest of the game. Granted, it'd be a really useless-ass card then, but they could do something like that so that Yata-Garasu could come back. Now, I'm not saying I want CED to come back. You know, it's just, I would like to see it in a format just because I've never seen it in a format, but it's obviously way too powerful how it is right now. I mean, no duh, like, anyone will tell you that. I put in Victory Dragon in here because of the fact that it's an interesting case. Because from what I've talked to my friends and other people about Victory Dragon is that in the OCG and even here in the TCG, when we had Victory Dragon, it apparently was pretty easy to summon even though you needed 3 dragons. And whenever your opponent saw that you were playing Victory Dragon, they would just scoop. So that once they wouldn't give you the chance to attack, basically, so that you wouldn't just win the match straight off the bat. They would just scoop, and then you would go into the next game. Like, one of my friends was telling me that when he played Victory Dragon, in whatever deck he was running at the time, and his opponent scooped, he would say, okay, are you scooping me the match? Because I already have Victory Dragon on board. Like, he wouldn't let his opponent pull all that crap of just scooping. Like, the second he summoned Victory Dragon, his opponent tried to scoop, he'd say, okay, you're just scooping the match to me then. You know, just to keep it fair like that. But that's the sole reason why they banned Victory Dragon, just because people were just getting around the card by scooping. Because then, you know, they're technically surrendering. You never hit them. So that's just one of those things. So, like, you could errata it to, when this card is summoned, your opponent cannot surrender. If this card reduces their life points to 0, you win the match. Or if your opponent surrenders, you still win the match. Or if this card inflicts 3,000 or more points of damage to your opponent, you win the duel. You know, so then it would force the opponent to have to use cards to boost up that monster's attack. Since it doesn't have 3,000 attack, obviously, you know, they'd have to use cards like just a random stupid card. I know it's not used, but Rush Recklessly. You know, just anything to boost its attack. I put Cyberstein in here as well. Just because, you know, you could have it say once per turn pay 5,000 life points, or even make the cost more than 5,000. Personally, me, I don't see anything wrong with the card. I think it can come back without no errata at all. But, you know, I could see possibly how Cyber Dragon decks could abuse it because it is a machine. But in that case, you change it to a warrior, because I'm pretty sure there's no deck right now that can abuse warrior fusions. I mean, if you really want to put Arcana Knight Joker in that argument, okay. Have fun. Card is safe return. When a monster is special summoned to the field from your graveyard, you can draw 1 card. Here's my idea for this card. Once per turn, when a monster is special summoned to the field from your graveyard, you can draw 1 card. You could even go as far to say, once per turn during your turn, when a monster is special summoned to the field from your graveyard, you can draw 1 card. Card is safe return doesn't seem that broken anymore, does it? You know, like, they can apply errata to any card, you know, obviously. Like, Dark Strike Fighter, Still banned over here. They still gave it in Errata. All of these cards that people would love to see come back could potentially come back with an Errata and not be that busted anymore. Like, for real. Like, I mean, I'm sure that the amount of Yu-Gi-Oh players that would love to see CED come back is very small. Probably even zero, to be quite honest. But think about it. If we can have an Errata that can change the attribute of a monster, change its type, change its attack and defense stats, change its effect altogether, hell, even changes the level or its name, don't you think somehow CED could come back? They could make CED have 0 attack and defense, but then give it this busted ass effect. Or even give it 0 attack and defense and have the cost, instead of it being 1,000, have it be higher than that. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 like Cyberstein. Doesn't seem that broken anymore, does it? And then, by upping up the cost, like here's the best one I can think of so far. You make its stats 0/0. You still have to banish the light and the dark to summon it. You could pay 3,000 light points or 5,000. Well, let's go with 5,000. Same thing as Cyberstein, because that's a hefty cost. Pay 5,000. Only destroys cards on the field. Doesn't destroy the hand. Destroys all cards on the field, and your opponent takes 200 for each. Doesn't seem that broken anymore, does it? So let me know what you guys think about these Erratas in the comments down below. Do you think that some of these cards that have been banned for forever could potentially come back just with the right Errata? You know, people would still want to have them, you know, at their full power, their original Errata. I understand that, you know, with Cyberstein and all that, and I get that. But some of these cards are just way too flat out broken to be able to ever come back. Like think about it. In the OCG, do you think Dark Strike Fighter would have ever come back unless it got that Errata? I don't think so. I really don't think so. You know, these cards that have been banned for years could easily come back with just a simple Errata. So, like, the examples I gave with CED is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, they could do so much more if they really wanted to. That was just, like, you know, the best I could think of. Like I said, Disc Commander. And this card special summon from the graveyard, draw 2 cards. You could have it be once per turn. When this card is special summon from the graveyard, draw 2 cards. You can only use this effect once per duel. Or, you know, something like that. So anyways, I'm going to let you guys go, because this was a long discussion video, but hopefully I was able to drill my point in like no other point I've tried to get into you guys before. You know, any of these cards could come back with the right Errata. But I do want to hear y'all's thoughts on this. It's just something that just popped into my head for whatever reason. I was like, oh my god, I have to make a video about this, because it's true. Like, it really is. If you can make an Errata about any of this stuff, like, the possibilities are endless. They don't even have to hold to this, you know? Like, they could completely change it around. Like, they could make, you know, like what they did with Summon Skull. They let it be an Archfiend monster. They gave it that, I guess you could call effect, even though it's not actually an effect. They made it an Archfiend card. They could do the same thing with CED. Make it an Archfiend card. Make it a warrior with 1 star, 0 attack and defense that only does 200 points of damage to your opponent for every card destroyed only on the field. It won't pop the hand, and then they pay like $5 grand for it. So, you know, in my opinion, that's not a very broken CED. So anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed. Like or favorite, be appreciated. Be sure to rate, comment, and most importantly, subscribe.